Everybody pour in.
Right now.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. We have quite a few registrants, so we're going to let everybody get a chance to get in. Okay, why don't we get started?
Let's do it.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for DCR's Hammond Pond Parkway Reconstruction 25% Design Public Meeting. Next slide. A couple of logistics to cover at the start. During the meeting, there are going to be two ways for you to ask questions. One is the raise your hand feature. We will unmute you and allow you to speak. The other is to write in a question using the Q&A feature. We will take people in order as the questions come in at the end of the presentation. You'll have the opportunity also to submit comments over the course of the next 4 weeks at DCR Public Comments. And this email address or this URL will be at the end of the presentation as well. One thing, please note that this meeting will be recorded and the meeting will be a public record. Next slide. On behalf of Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, EEA Secretary Thea Herides, and DCR Commissioner Jim Montgomery, we welcome you and thank you for your participation in this meeting. Next slide. Now I'd like to hand it off to, I apologize, one more thing. I'd like to recognize Representative Balzer, who's joined us tonight. Rep Balzer will give you the opportunity to speak at the beginning of the Q&A session at the end. Other public officials, as you join, if you would like to say a few words, please text me, Jennifer Norwood, on the chat feature in the Zoom panel. On that note, I'd like to hand off the presentation to Director of Green Transportation for DCR, Dan Driscoll. Dan?
Thanks, Jenny, and thank you all for taking the time to come out tonight for this really exciting and important project that DCR is embarking on. Our project team, again, is DCR. The City of Newton is our primary project stakeholder, and we're responsible for coordination with public outreach with them. And I should note, we have had 3 meetings with the city and city professional staff over the last year and a half. And we also have the BSC group tonight with Peter Reed as the project manager, Sam Ofi-Adu, and Ricardo Ostrich is also here for BSC group. Next. This is our project location, Hammond Pond Parkway. It goes from Beacon Street in Newton all the way to the Newton Street, LaGrange Street Rotary in Brookline. We are doing, our project is on phase 1, which is Beacon Street to Route 9, and it does include the underpass of the Route 9 bridge, where we're going to try our best to find a way to get pedestrians and cyclists through that piece of it as best we can. It's 1.1 miles, the project area. And one thing to note on this slide is one of the exciting things about this project is it goes through a lot of conservation land. So it's an opportunity to create access to an extensive trail network in both DCR as well as City of Newton conservation lands. Next. The existing parkway was built in 1934. The roadway consists of 2 lanes in each direction. You can see the image to the right. The overall length, again, is just about 1 mile. The roadway crosses over the D branch of the MBTA's green line on a single span bridge. It's easy to miss that bridge, but it's right in the middle of our project area. And there's 3 signalized intersections within the project limits, the most complicated of which is Beacon Street, and we'll be talking about that a fair amount tonight. We will have coordination. We've already initiated coordination with MassDOT regarding the required modifications to the bridge and the minor improvements at Route 9. And we've also hired Lynn Associates as a sub-consultant on our team to actually do the bridge retrofitting that's going to be required to safely cross pedestrians and cyclists over that bridge. As you can see in this image, there's really limited sidewalk and bicycle accommodation currently on Hammond Pond Parkway. There's not even a fog line to ride a bike inside. So if you bike this road, you are currently cycling in an active travel lane. Next. Our project goals. We've begun to redesign Hammond Pond Parkway as a complete street gem in the DCR Parkway system. Anyone who's not familiar with the concept of complete streets is an initiative that's been underway for about a decade, where DCR has really been taking the forefront on it with DOT to transform our streets so that they're comfortable for all users. So the second goal is to provide safe bicycle and pedestrian accommodation along the parkway via a 12-foot wide shared use path. We're going to provide 2 travel lanes from Beacon Street to the shops at Chestnut Hill Driveway, which means we're talking about a road diet of taking out 2 lanes of travel. And we're going to maintain existing travel lane configurations from the shops at Chestnut Hill Driveway to Route 9. And we're going to provide improved access to adjacent conservation land, which we'll show you a little later on. We're also going to construct landscape buffers between the roadway and shared use path with extensive native plantings. And we're also going to replace all of the existing lighting out here with historic period lighting that's more reflective of Parkway character. I want to just mention quick that the DCR has been working for about 3 years now on a comprehensive Parkway master plan for all of the parkways or most of the parkways in our system across the metropolitan region. That Parkway master plan is the most extensive plan we've ever done. It's now complete. We're working on a release strategy right now. Hopefully in the next month or 2, we're going to be getting that out to the public. But prior to the master plan coming out, we've already begun long ago in the last 5 to 10 years, a major effort in transforming both the culture of DCR and how we see our roads, but engaging in some really extensive large-scale projects to transform the region's transportation for peds and bikes. So I want to show you a few images of some of our bigger success stories. This is Greeno Boulevard in Watertown and Cambridge. You can see the before and after. Similar to Hammond Pond Parkway, we took out 2 lanes on that project. This is a road in Newton. So many of you may have been out here or are familiar with it. This is Nonantum Road in Newton, right along the Charles River. Again, we did a road diet and took a lane out, allowing us to both widen the reservation, put in an appropriate 10-foot path, and put in an appropriate barrier for safety. You could see on the left, it was a really dangerous condition before we were able to do this project. Next. And the last example I wanted to show was Truman Parkway, another DCR parkway. The before and afters kind of speak for themselves. This is a road that is in Boston, just outside Mattapan Square. And I want to note that with all of these projects, they all were done and completed pre-pandemic. And we have had, despite doing road diets on all of them, we have had no issues with increased traffic congestion or backups. So we're pretty confident that when we do the right traffic analysis, we can do these kinds of projects and have great success to get complete street standards. Next. So what have we been doing so far? The project started in 2019. That's when the DCR issued its notice to proceed to BSC Group. We completed an extensive survey of the entire Parkway. We've also did extensive traffic counts. And again, I want to note that all of the traffic counts and analysis that was done for this project were all done pre-pandemic. So we're pretty confident that the data we collected and the analysis that we have done is reflective of a more normal time in our world. I mentioned we had coordination meetings with the city. We've actually had 3 now. Mayor Fuller was in attendance at 2 of those meetings and has offered all kinds of great input on the project. And we have an extensive traffic report that confirms our analysis and our belief that we can do a 2-lane road diet. In 2020, we engaged in a major lighting coordination meeting with utility companies to figure out how all the conduit is going to work for the new lighting system. And we also got to our 25% design plans and our cost estimates. And here we are tonight at our 25% public meeting. We've really gone a little bit beyond 25%, but that's what we're calling the current submittal. Next. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to BSC Group and Peter Reed and his team to walk you through some of the details in how we're going to modify these cross sections and give you an understanding of what things are going to look like out here. Peter.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. I am going to walk you through a number of graphics that show you visually all of the things that Dan has been describing to you about our proposed improvements here. So on this graphic, we're looking at Route 9 at the left-hand side of the graphic at the south end of the project. And we start the shared use path on the west side right there, right when we get out from underneath Route 9. I should say, though, that under Route 9, we are going to be widening that sidewalk by a few feet. It's any of you who have been under there, you know that it's pretty tight. So we're going to do some improvements there to try and gain some width under the bridge. Once we get further north, you can see the lane configurations that we're showing. It's the exact same lane configuration that's out there today. We will be doing what we call a mill and overlay in order to get a new roadway. Then as we move northward, the next slide brings us up the hill to the driveway for the shops at Chestnut Hill. That intersection we'll be installing new signals there, and the lane configuration on Hammond Pond Parkway will be as it is today. However, the exit from the shop's driveway onto the parkway will go from 3 lanes to 2. And then we proceed northward from there and we pass 300 Hammond Pond Parkway driveway, which is the BC facility. And then once we get past that is where we go to 2 lanes, 1 in each direction. And with the 10-foot wide strip there is shown in green. And then the shared use path is 12 feet in width. Continuing northward there, you can see the BC driveway there. We go a little bit further north and there is an existing parking area there today, which allows for a few cars. We're going to formalize that and add a few more spaces to it. From the parking lot itself, we will have a sidewalk on that side that continues up a couple hundred feet, and we'll have a mid-block crossing, which is shown there. All of the lines that are off to the sides of the extensive trail network that's in the conservation areas that Dan mentioned. We also are showing some wetlands there. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes.
Peter, could I just add quick on that? There's currently for the conservation land. There's currently a couple of additional sort of informal entries to that trail network that we're really hoping to close because we don't think they're safe spots to be accessing it and crossing the road from our proposed shared use path. And we can talk more about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And continuing northward here, we hit the bridge that Dan mentioned. And as he said, Lynn Associates is doing the design for it. We will be coordinating with Mass DOT. And then the last slide here gets us up to Beacon Street intersection here. You can see as we approach the intersection, we do have a right turn lane to accommodate the right turning traffic. This, oops, I went one too far. Okay, sorry. This slide here shows the Beacon Street intersection. Note that we've rotated the view. North is straight up in this graphic. And the turn lanes on Beacon Street are as they are today. However, the right turn lane from Beacon Street onto the Parkway is now the slip lane that's there today has been removed and replaced with the shared use path. Hobart Road is going from, you can see there we've combined the straight and the left turn lane. And on the northbound from the Parkway onto Beacon Street westbound, today we have two lanes that turn left into one receiving lane. And that is a hazardous condition. There have been a number of sideswipe accidents there. And so we are proposing one lane for the left turning traffic, and you can see the right turn slip lane. Now what we want to do is walk you through the signal sequencing for the intersection. So this graphic, there's a total of 4 sequences to the signal. In the legend here, you can see that the vehicles are in green when they're moving. When they're stopped, they're in red. We have the pedestrian phase in orange and then the bicycle phase in blue. So in the first phase, the traffic is moving along Beacon Street in both directions. The vehicles are moving, the bicycles moving, and the pedestrians are moving. You can see that right turn off of Hobart Road to go westbound on Beacon Street remains as is today, and that can go, I think it can go in all of these sequences. Oops, sorry. Sequence 2 is when Hobart Road gets the green light. You can go, straight onto the Parkway, turn left onto Beacon, or take the right onto Beacon. The pedestrians are at this phase allowed to cross Beacon Street and also cross that slip lane. During phase 3, we allow the northbound Parkway traffic to turn left and to turn right. We allow Beacon Street eastbound to turn right onto the Parkway, but you'll notice that all of the bike and ped activity movements are stopped during this phase. And then we get to the last phase, and we have Beacon Street westbound. We are allowing the left turns to operate during this phase. Also, the bicycles going westbound are allowed to go, but eastbound they're stopped. And then also the pedestrians on the north side of Beacon Street are allowed to go. So that's the 4 sequences for the different modes of traffic here. In the next slide here, we just wanted to show you, this is, now we've moved back down to the Route 9 underpass, and the bicycles are shown in blue. And so northbound bicyclists coming from the south are in the roadway with the Sharrow up to that signalized intersection, at which point they would cross and get onto the shared use path. Coming southbound, they would come down and cross that ramp and then get into the traffic with the Sharrows and continue southbound.
Peter, could I comment quick on this? I just wanted to say for everyone that this also marks what DCR sees as the beginning of phase 2 of Hammond Pond Parkway. So we understand that we're bringing people here to, if you choose to continue, you're probably going to have a little more advanced cycling skills to navigate this. But phase 2, we hope to continue all the way to the Newton Street, LaGrange Street Rotary in Brookline. I will say that we're pretty confident that there's not going to be a way to do a road diet on that section. So it's a different kind of project where we will be looking to come into DCR-owned land. There'll be probably some more environmental impacts. A lot of volunteer growth would need to be removed. But we think we do have the space to get an off-road facility all the way to that rotary. And then the real vision is to get down Newton Street through Brookline to Pond Street back to the Arborway in Boston, or branch off and continue on West Roxbury Parkway all the way to the VFW. So this is potentially a really important, just major regional connector. And I just wanted to mention quickly here that phase 2, it is in our sights, even though it is a couple, 2 to 3 years out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Right here, we're looking at a graphic of the proposed parkway in the northern section where we're 2 lanes. You can see we're proposing 11-foot wide lanes with 3-foot shoulders on both sides. And then we have a 10-foot landscaping strip and the 12-foot wide shared use path. This is another graphic showing how it could look with the shared use path and then the road parkway over on the left side. You notice in this graphic, we're showing the new ornamental street lighting. Down at the southern end, there's the kind of old-fashioned Cobra head lights, which we will be removing. We have a couple of before and after shots. This is at 300 Hammond Pond Parkway, the BC facility. On the left, you see the existing condition. On the right, you see where we've gone to the 2-lane configuration, the landscaping, and then the shared use path crossing the BC driveway. This view is looking northward from the BC driveway. You see the shared use path there. Oops, sorry, this presentation sometimes jumps around before I'm ready to advance it. So there's the after view of the parkway with the two lanes. So now I just wanted to run through the environmental permitting and the stormwater design. We have, as I mentioned previously, we have wetlands on both sides of the project. We also have this picture here is a brook that crosses the parkway. As you leave Beacon Street, you kind of go downhill, you hit a low point, and then you start back up toward the MBTA bridge. Well, at that low point, if you were to be walking, get out of your car, and you look over the edge, you'd see this brook. It's a box culvert, and so today the existing drainage system, the catch basins and the manholes, they all discharge directly into the side of this box culvert. We're planning to remove those connections from the box culvert because today the pollutants from the roadway flow right down into the brook. So under the proposed conditions, we would be like I said, plug those outlets into the box culvert and then discharge the water some distance from the brook, get some overland flow, which helps to screen out the pollutants, and we also get some infiltration. So those are our goals for stormwater design. We also are looking for opportunities to do other BMPs, maybe in the landscaping strip or maybe to the outside edges. As I said, we will be submitting a notice of intent to the Newton Conservation Commission. So we want to work with them and do what we can to provide improved stormwater design along the Parkway. With regard, so that requires a notice of intent submission to the Newton Conservation Commission. We will also be preparing a PNF filed with Mass Historic Commission. There's a possibility we may do have to have NEPA coordination if some of the thresholds are exceeded. And then a stormwater pollution prevention plan.
Peter, just quick for the benefit of everyone, we use these acronyms sometimes because they're so familiar to us, but a BMP is a best management practice for stormwater treatment, which Peter referred to. That's what the BMP stands for. And MEPA is the Mass Environmental Policy Act for the state. It's through the Department of Environmental Protection and the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. You would file with them for a permit if it triggers certain parameters.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And so the BMP would be, for instance, swales and infiltration basins, things of that nature. There's a variety of different BMPs that can be used, but you know, it really, you look at the right of way and that's available. And so there's a number of factors that going into choosing the appropriate BMP. So this slide here shows our current project schedule. Tonight we are having our public meeting and we are moving toward a 75% design in March. We will submit that to Dan and others at DCR for their review and comments. And we will then prepare a 100% PSNE design and anticipate advertising it in November. Construction could start in April of 22 and it likely be more than one construction season and extend into 2023. Was there another slide here? Yeah. Is this the slide we want to end on, or do we want to go back?
This is fine
Yeah.
here, Peter. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jenny.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So we will open it up now to Q&A, but for additional information, just so you know, because this presentation was recorded, we will post it on DCR's public meetings website. You will see, you can have the recording and a copy of the presentation. Anybody, even if they weren't able to attend tonight, can visit that page and look through what we presented and provide comments at mass.gov/DCR/public comment. The deadline for receiving public comments will be Thursday, February 4th. Please note the contents of your comments, including your name, town, and zip code, will be posted to DCR's website. Additional contact information provided, most notably your email address, will only be used for outreach for future updates on this project. We will not post it to a website, and we do not share contact information with outside parties. In addition, if you want to subscribe to DCR general information, you can do that through the Office of Community Relations at mass.parks@mass.gov. And with that, we'll open up Q&A. Before we start with Q&A, I'd like to recognize Representative Ruth Balzer. Representative Balzer, let me see if I can, I'm going to unmute you, and if you'd like to say a few words. Go ahead, Rep. Balzer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay, thanks. I just wanted, as long as you saw that I was here, I'll just say a quick hello. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I thank DCR for this work. I've been talking with many members of the community who I hope are in the audience. I can't see who's here, but there have been a lot of people who over the years have talked to me about having a dream that Hammond Pond Parkway would be an easier place to navigate on a bike or walking, because it is surrounded by such, beautiful land. And so I've been talking with DCR about that for many years, and it's good to see that we're moving forward on it. I'm not going to make any comments on the specifics. I'd rather hear from the people in the community, but just know that I'll work with both DCR and with the people in the district to make this a success, something that we can all really enjoy. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. So I'm going to go through, I will start with reading a few of the questions that were entered into Q&A, and then I will jump over to the hands raised. The first question is Hammond Pond Parkway registered as a National Historic Location as of 2002?
I could take that. The parkways individually are not recognized, but collectively as a system, the system was registered in the National Historic Register. So the parkway system, as it was first laid out by Charles Elliott and others when we were first developing the first metropolitan park system in the country, is acknowledged in the National Register. And we are very sensitive to cultural resources on these parkways, and we'll be thinking about that as we move forward. Good question.
Thanks, Dan. Next question. What is the legal width of the bike path as well as the walking path? What is the impact statement on Beacon Street as well as Hammond Street since COVID?
I'm sorry, the legal width, the multi-use path that we're proposing is a 12-foot wide path with 2-foot shoulders. So there will be shoulders for those that are more comfortable walking maybe off the pavement in case there's bikes coming up behind them. So we will have it's a pretty aggressive cross section. We think it's going to be needed with the popularity we anticipate. And the other question, I'm going to push that back to Peter.
Can you repeat that question, Jenny? The second half?
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Hold on, I apologize. What's the legal width of the bike path as well as walking path? What is the impact statement on Beacon Street as well as Hammond Street since COVID?
I think, Peter, I'm sorry to jump in, but I think what they're asking is, what kind of reductions in traffic have we seen since COVID? If I'm interpreting that right. We have not done additional traffic counts during the pandemic. All of our traffic work was completed prior to the pandemic, but I'm confident that initially with the pandemic, we probably would have seen pretty significant reductions. In general, a lot of our roads are seeing fairly normal traffic these days.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Is it possible to add a walk button and light to cross the parkway at Chestnut Hill Mall entrance in the meantime, as this project will take a while to complete?
Sam, are you listening on that? Can you chime in on that one?
I think Jeff should be asking. It's a maintenance question as to the current operation. So I think Jeff, can you take that?
Sure, Sam, no problem. This is Jeff Parenti. I'm Deputy Chief Engineer for DCR. I'm responsible for the Parkway system. I'm not sure if the person is asking about crossing the Parkway or crossing the driveway, but while we're talking, let me take a look. I'll take a look on the file and see if I can sort that one out. Maybe we'll have an answer later in the program.
Okay, one more, and then I'll move to the hands raised. Where do you propose entry into the northeast section of Deer Park?
That came up, that's a good question. That came up in our meeting with this, our most recent meeting with the city. The Conservation Commission agent brought that up, and we agreed that we were going to try to look at that closer. We weren't sure, because there's a project going on in the city with some of that land, and we want to make sure that we get that right. But we're aware of it. We're working with the city on it, and that will be something that will come later as the plans are developed further.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So I'll go to the first question here. Thomas Keaty, go ahead. I think you have to unmute yourself.
Here we go.
There you go.
My name's Tom Keaty. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations and Community Affairs at Boston College. The BC team is on. Joe Herlihy and Jane Levesque and Jack Brennan have joined me, I believe, this evening. I have a couple of questions. Dan, thank you for your presentation to Boston College a couple of months ago. From that presentation, we submitted to Jennifer a couple of pages of questions. Will we be getting a response on those questions? That's my first question. And my second one is, we have been requesting a copy of the traffic study, and Craig Cashman has said that Peter Reed was supposed to forward that to us, and we've yet to receive that.
Yeah, that one's on me, Thomas. And thanks for your comment. Yeah, Jeff and I wanted to make sure that our final comments to BSC group were incorporated into the study so that we could take the word draft off of it and declare it as our final traffic study. I will get that out to you next week. I'll work with Peter Reed at BSC, make sure we get Jeff's comments into the document, and we'll send that out next week. And I apologize for the delay. We've been doing our best.
And how about the response to our questions? I know that we're doing this tonight, but we submitted a couple of pages of questions.
I was holding to pull all of the questions and comments together to give them all to the design team at once.
Okay.
So they will be included in the public comment, that comes with this meeting.
And then my last question, probably to Dan, someone who travels the Truman Parkway frequently, heading over to East Milton Square from West Roxbury. The Truman Parkway is, 2 lanes going in each direction, and you did a fabulous job on, adding that walkway, bike path. When I say bike path, bike way. Was there any thought or consideration to not doing a reduction in reducing from 2 lanes down to 1 lane in each direction, and looking, because even in your pictures, there seems to be a lot of room on both sides, especially on one side. And, I'm looking forward to the road diet, because pre-pandemic, I take that Hammond Pond Parkway road on a daily basis. And, at different times of the year, it's there are backups from LaGrange Street, especially in the afternoon, all the way back to Beacon, when we were in normal conditions. But any consideration for just adding the bike path and the sidewalk on that stretch of land?
I don't think so, Thomas. I think we're pretty committed to the road diet here. Our real vision on a lot of the parkways is like you said on Truman, is, and some of the images we showed earlier, like Greeno and Nonanum Road. We really are trying to create what we label as sort of family-friendly facilities bike lanes along active travel ways are great for commuters and maybe some more advanced cyclists, but they don't achieve our goal of complete streets and providing a safe respite for all cyclists, including families and children and the elderly. So that's our goal here. And we're pretty confident with the traffic analysis that we can achieve that without causing significant problems. But to your point, from Route 9 to LaGrange Street, there's no intention by us to do any kind of road diet on that section. And we agree that there, the congestion and the limitations of the cross section would not allow that. But we think we're in pretty good shape on this other section. Thanks for your comments.
Okay, next I've got Jim McGonigal. Jim, go ahead. Okay, you're unmuted.
John Grandin? Is John Grandin just unmuted?
Oh, okay. I think everybody, quite a few people registered under Jim McGonigal's name. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
that may be Counselor Lyle Baker, who's been trying to figure out whether to state his questions out loud or write them in the chat.
Okay. Well, whoever was unmuted,
So
go
John,
ahead.
I'm John Grandin, and Lyle can come on next. I live near him. And a question: can we tell how many people are on here tonight? How big a crowd do we have here?
We have a huge crowd. We have 98 attendees right now. I did get some notices at about 10 after 7 that when we topped over 100, Zoom shut us down, shut down the attendance. So
Okay,
it's a big group.
that's helpful. Now, I came in a little late. What about traffic counts? I heard BC asking about that. Do we have any numbers of what's been going on for traffic there, and what's going to happen when it goes down to one lane? And was that talked about tonight?
Peter, you want to take that?
Well, yeah, sure. We have, as Dan had pointed out, we did our traffic counts prior to the pandemic arriving. And we have done the traffic study for all of the intersections. And I believe all of the intersections, well, the southern ones will operate very close to what they are today. It's the northern one with Beacon Street where there will be some reduction in the operating characteristics of it. But we feel that those delays are not significant.
Well, my last question is, well, what are the numbers? I mean, like on Hammond Street, we're concerned that there's going to be a flow over to Hammond Street if this thing doesn't work. And Hammond Street's taken 15,000 callers a day, roughly. What's the numbers for Hammond Pond Parkway? No one seems to have shared them with anybody.
Sam, do you know what's the volumes?
I think Hammond Pond Parkway currently, or when we did in 2019, it was about 19,000 vehicles, between 17 and 19,000 vehicles per day.
Okay, and this new road's going to be able to take the same volume.
Yes.
Yeah, and we did share the traffic counts with Boston College. But we still owe you the comprehensive traffic report, which is what I'm hoping to get out to you all next week. And once we finalize that, people will be free to look at all of it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take one more hand raise and then we'll go back to written questions. I've got Marnie Bolstad. Go ahead, Marnie.
Thank you, Jennifer. I have a question as a pedestrian crossing the road. I have hiked through Webster Woods and crossed over. And right now you take your life in your hands when you do that to get to the conservation land on the other side to continue hiking. Will there be any provision for, say, a manual blinking light or anything like that to assist pedestrians coming from Webster Wood crossing the road?
Well, right now we are proposing that we'll have signage for the crossing, the mid-block crossing, and we will also have some other visual kind of cues to alert the drivers to the mid-block crossing. But we're not anticipating putting in any type of like a rapid flashing beacon.
And I think it's important to remember, by taking out those 2 lanes, the crossing distance is much less. You're crossing 4 live lanes of traffic plus some sort of, defunct shoulder to get to those conservation lands now. That will be narrowed down significantly by over 50% in your crossing distance. And we did talk about this with the city in our meeting. We haven't totally ruled out doing some kind of lighting system, not a signal, but a flashing beacon or a hawk signal. And Jeff Parenti is still thinking about that and the implications of it. We don't, intuitively, we don't think it will be necessary, but we haven't completely ruled it out either. And we'll continue to talk that through with the city.
Yeah, and one more thing, if I could add, Dan and Jenny, we haven't talked about speed yet, and Peter and Sam measured speed as well as volume, and we were, as I'm sure you have all felt and seen, we measured speeds of over 50 miles an hour, and part of that is because there's too much road. When we reduce the size of the road, the speeds will be substantially reduced. So the experience of crossing the road or walking or biking along the road will be different than anything you are experiencing today. The road will feel better, and it will be more comfortable, no matter how you're using it. So I think the geometric changes of the road that we're talking about will get us mostly or almost all of what we want out of the road. And so that's what I'm focusing on.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually going to allow one more to talk. Councilor Baker, I think we finally found her. I just unmuted you if you wanted to speak. I think you have to unmute yourself. Go ahead. Doesn't seem to be. You're unmuted, but your sound doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to move to written questions. The first one is, how will cyclists eventually get under Route 9? Will it continue to be, it says Sharrows.
Well, as I said, we will be widening that sidewalk somewhat in this phase. Dan and I have talked about when we go to phase 2 to the south, we may look for more opportunities to widen the sidewalk. But as part of this project, we're talking about getting a few feet onto that of widening to the sidewalk, which is one opportunity for bicyclists, but more formally, the bicyclists are in the road using a sharrow in both directions.
Okay, next question. Will BC still be able to park cars along the Parkway during football games?
The short answer is no. And we are looking at, the DCR has some parking rights in the shops at Chestnut Hill, and we are looking at that. We're talking about 7 Saturdays a year, roughly, if they have a full season, 7 home games. So we're aware of the loss of that, and we are looking at some of the parking rights that DCR has at the Route 9 end of the Parkway in that parking lot, and whether or not that might help. But the short answer is no, they won't be able to park the way they have been in recent years.
Okay, next question or a comment. Please consider putting up a no turn on right signs at the end of Hammond Pond Parkway onto Beacon, as cars will turn right without looking into cyclists going eastbound in the bike lane. That's very hazardous. Thank you.
Yeah, we in the graphic that we showed, the right turns from Beacon Street onto the Parkway are only allowed during one phase, I believe it is. And so they'll be stopped at all other times. And yes, we'll be putting up the no turn on red.
Next question. Why did you decide to make the right-hand turn from Hobart onto Beacon uncontrolled? It seems to be danger to pedestrians heading north.
Well, there will be a stop sign. It'll be stop controlled. The right turn from Hobart onto Beacon.
Okay. I have lived in this area most of my life and I have never seen a pedestrian on Hammond Pond Parkway. What makes you think there's a need to put pedestrians on this parkway?
Well, we're pretty confident that the Parkway, one, we've already talked about all the access to this really great open space. It's going to provide opportunities where that small parking lot that we're going to put in near the crosswalk, the mid-block crossing, will also have a number of bike racks where people that might live in any part of Newton, but Newton Center, could ride a bike with their family and potentially lock it in these bike racks and then go for a nice hike in the conservation land. The hope is that people will maybe think about walking to the shopping center or to go to a movie or get dinner, and in a way that they cannot do now. And we're just pretty confident that everywhere we build these kinds of facilities, it really is if you build it, they will come reality. We're pretty confident it'll be heavily used. And if you look on a map at Hammond Pond Parkway and its ability to connect back to Boston and the Arborway and beyond, it really has the potential to do something that no other road in the region can do in terms of regional connectivity for people, runners, walkers, and bikers. Thanks for that question.
This is one of my favorite questions, and it goes to vision. What do we see as the future of the Parkway? And to paraphrase someone who said it many times, there's no there. But we're trying to build a place. This is not just a roadway to get you from one end to the other. It could be a destination itself. As Dan described, it might be someplace you'd want to spend the afternoon, go jogging, take a 2-mile bike ride down and back. If you take a look back at the after photos that Peter showed and start to imagine what it really could be, that it isn't now. It's just the sides of the road are just dust in a lot of places and overgrown vegetation, but we really can turn it into a destination and much more than just a roadway. That's what we're after.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I'm going to move back over to some of the hand raised. We've got Andrew Plout. Andrew, go ahead. Andrew?
Excuse me.
There you go.
I'm wondering whether automobiles on this 2-lane road now, will automobiles be able to pass each other? Because right now the speeds going through there are quite high. And will there be a double lane, double stripe so cars can't pass, or how will that be handled?
Yes, there will be a double yellow line down the center of the road, 1 lane in each direction, no passing. Until you get down into the southern section where we get more lanes, but in the northern section, no passing.
Okay, next I've got Ed Olhava. Go ahead, Ed.
Hi, this is Ed Olhava I'm the president of Bike Newton. We represent over 1,700 members in Newton who are interested in safe cycling for all ages and experience levels. And first, I want to thank you all for providing this. It's a great presentation and a great vision for what Hammond Pond Parkway could be. I just want to follow up on just a couple comments on the, if you'll excuse me 1 second. I really, would just like to encourage you to push up the vision of fully integrating the this whole parkway with offset biking. I know there's some talk right now putting sharrows in and how to get that offset in a little bit, but I really would like to try to do that sooner rather than later, just to make a fully integrated transport system for all users, pedestrians, cyclists, and cars. Because I think the safer we can make this, the more quickly it'll be used by everybody. And just one very specific question. A few years ago, I was in Charleston, South Carolina, and they have a number of offset mixed-use paths, and they actually stripe it so that it clearly indicates which, in 3 different ways. There's a pedestrian segment, and then there's like a segment for each direction for cyclists. Have you considered doing this on the mixed-use path, just to make it clear to pedestrians and cyclists where they should be so they can safely interact and pass each other? So that's my question, and look forward to your response.
On that question, we've tried that in places. The Southwest Corridor, which is up in Northeastern, is an example where we attempted to separate cyclists and pedestrians. We generally find that the real key is to give everybody adequate space. And I have faith that people are pretty good at managing themselves. Certainly pedestrians always have the right of way on any path, including this. 12 feet is a pretty generous path. And it probably, on like the Charles River Basin, we may put a yellow skip line down the center of it, which will help people understand that it's a 2-way path. And when they're passing, they go outside that line and then they come back in. And we may have some pedestrian yield signs just to make everyone aware of who has the jurisdiction first out there.
Okay, I'll jump back to some written questions again. Is the Deer Park at the corner of Beacon and the Parkway currently fully accessible for the public? If so, how do you get in there? If not, will it become so? Thanks, the plan looks great.
That's a little outside of DCR's jurisdiction. As I mentioned, we will work with the city in whatever way we can help create access into the Deer Park. When somebody says fully accessible, that implies, disability access to me. And I don't think it has that right now. I don't have the full plans that the city's working on, but we are aware that we're going to work with them, and whatever point of our project makes sense to create connectivity into that project of the city's, we certainly are going to accommodate that and participate with them.
Great, thank you. Next question, did I just hear overland flow into Hammond Pond, which has not been projected?
Can you repeat that, Jen?
Did I just hear overland flow into Hammond Pond, which has not been projected?
No, I think that's a miss. Did you say that, Peter?
No, I did not. Hammond Pond is down in the southern area, and we're really not affecting Hammond Pond at all.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Next one. I understand that Hammond Pond Parkway from Beacon Street to Route 9 will go from 2 lanes down to 1. Will there be a separate right lane to enter the mall and towers of Chestnut Hill? There isn't one currently. But if the Parkway goes down to 1 lane, traffic could really back up, and there are many residents who live in the towers at Chestnut Hill.
The entrances to Chestnut Hill drives will be the same as they are today, with a right turn lane going southbound, and a northbound will have a dedicated left turn lane. So there shouldn't be any change on that movement.
Okay, great. Next question. Can there be a way for animals to cross underneath the roads safely?
Well, it's a good question. We care about the wildlife. Outside of using the MBTA corridor, which I don't know if animals are using that or not to come under that bridge. I imagine they do. And I'm not sure how safe it is because it is an active green line corridor. But no, we don't anticipate building any kind of wildlife tunnels at this point. I think by taking out, to Jeff Parenti's point, this place is going to change so much in character, in speeds, and in the width of the roadway that it's certainly all the things that are going to benefit humans will also benefit wildlife.
Thanks, Dan. Next one, how wide are the driveways into the Parkway in the proposed design?
Well, there aren't really that many driveways onto the Parkway. The BC driveway will remain the same width. The shops at Chestnut Hill driveway going from the shops onto the Parkway will go from 3 lanes to 2. So that will be narrower. And then the other the intersection further south remains as is today too.
Okay, next question, will there be another meeting to see 75% design?
Yeah, I think we will. The project was scoped to have 2 public meetings. Frankly, we had hoped to have this one a bit earlier. The pandemic is like all things in our lives, has pushed this out. But I think once we have our 75% design submittal, possibly by spring, we will try to come back and do our second public meeting that's in our schedule.
Okay, next one. How do you select the pedestrian crossing point between the sections of conservation land? Will there be a signal there?
As we stated earlier, we don't anticipate putting in a signal there. But I think that's something that's still a little bit up in the air. And as far as the location of it, we looked at it and it's near the existing parking area. So that's one benefit to the crossing area. And the sight lines are pretty good there. And it connects a number of the trails on both sides.
Okay, great. I'm trying to get Counselor Baker here. I'll ask one more question and hope that we can get them on. Please explain why the new crossing is located where it is. I think you just answered this. People currently cross at the midpoint on the straight section just south of the T Bridge. This would be a more logical place.
We selected that based on sight lines, maximizing safety, and what appeared to us to be a big desire line as a primary entry into both trail networks on each side of the Parkway.
And I also think, Dan, that the crossing, if you were to put a pedestrian crossing just south of the bridge, there's a vertical curve there coming up and over the bridge. So vehicles coming from the south can't be seen well. So that's another reason to it.
Okay, great. Will there be much disruption of traffic during construction?
Well, we anticipate, our goal is to keep 1 lane open in each direction at all times during construction. I mean, there may be some very brief times where there's a need to, like if there was a need to, say, put something across the road with excavation, we might do it at night. But I really don't see much of that at all. I think that almost at all times we will have 1 lane open in each direction and kind of shift the traffic around as we construct the new roadway.
Okay, I've got another question. Will the speed limit be lowered? Is one, and this is outside the scope of the project, but do you think there's a chance of adding a sidewalk to complete the pedestrian route from the Parkway up to Route 9 to Langley Street on the north side of Route 9?
Jeff, you want to take the speed limit question?
Sure. I honestly don't remember what it's posted for
I think
today.
it's 30. It's 30 currently.
Okay, yeah, that's obviously not, as we described earlier, 30 is not exactly the speed that we're established or that we're achieving today. But we'll set the speed limit to what's appropriate for a roadway like this. 30 is probably appropriate. But we'll talk that through as we develop the design of this project. And so but as we talked about before, with the smaller roadway, 30 is much more achievable with the design that we're talking about tonight than it stands today.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go back to hand raising. I've got Richard Primack. Go ahead. Richard? Okay, there you go. You're unmuted.
Okay. I'd just like to ask the question about closing trailheads that you mentioned. Does that mean we're going to have less access to the trails than we presently have? Are you going to be closing some trails?
The short answer is yes, Richard, in that we can only create certain crossings that make sense. So to have, we already pointed out, to have the trail head near the railroad bridge, the railroad crossing, the bridge, the sight lines are not good. So we're trying to maximize public safety. If we find at some point that there's desires that we need to think about a second crossing, we can always look at a later phase for something like that. But we really think that one primary crossing gets people into the trail network, where if they want to branch off to where those other trailheads are, it's not going to be far. They'll be able to get over into all those areas from this place that we selected. But we're going to continue to work on this and remind everybody that we'll be going through this really extensively with the city of Newton when we file with the Conservation Commission. And obviously everybody's welcome to come to those hearings when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you. Next, I've got Marita Tressler. Marita, go ahead.
It's Marita and Fred Tressler, both. Thank you very much for the presentation tonight. We really wish that the traffic data was part of this presentation tonight, because ultimately it all starts with that. We live nearby. I've lived here for 30 plus years. And respectfully, I don't understand, given the backups on Hammond Pond Parkway that are happening at various times of the day. And as someone previously pointed out, sometimes all the way from the Rotary down at LaGrange Street, all the way back to Beacon Street, how going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes and reducing the speed is ever going to get the traffic going. And frankly, the numbers quoted, I doubt. Having traveled Hammond Street and Hammond Pond Parkway for 40 plus years, at various times a day, 365 days of the year, if the Hammond Street traffic is such, then the Hammond Pond Parkway is not just 3,000 or 4,000 more cars. It is not possible. 4 lanes versus 2 lanes and those 2 roads, those numbers I would call into question. I really want to see the traffic study. I'm very disappointed it wasn't part of this. Now, I'd like to also make sure that everyone in this group knows, because I don't think your planning people do, Peter specifically, Jeffrey, that Boston College worked very hard to create a parking plan for the expansion of their stadium. It took a lot of their work. They did a great job with it. And the neighborhoods in the city of Newton, the city of Boston all signed off on it. As part of that parking plan, there were a lot of cars being parked along Hammond Pond Parkway. You don't have a solid plan right now for replacing that. In addition, the buses do help move people about in the day of game day. And I don't know if that's been taken into plan. So they have a plan. Granted, it's only 6 to 7 days of the year, but it's a public safety issue, because we lived in the area before they had a plan. The plan has been fantastic. They did a great job with their plan. They did a very careful traffic study. This plan should never be considered without it being done in conjunction with Boston College. I'm very disappointed that Boston College hasn't had answers to its questions. And to say that it's being postponed till this meeting, those are questions that should have been asked and answered to Boston College and possibly part of this. And so Boston College needs to be, their plan needs to be considered. Finally, DCR has had issues. with bike lanes that they've built being maintained during snow emergencies. Does the DCR have the equipment, the staff, and the budget available to clear these bike lanes that are being installed?
Dan or Jeff, you wanna?
Yeah, let me talk about the snow removal first, and then, Peter, you and Sam may have to jump back in on the traffic counts in the study. I will say those are good comments. It's hard because the traffic counts in the traffic study are very technical. They're hard to present at a meeting like this. But they're good comments, and maybe we need a charrette with people who are interested in that kind of stuff, that we could delve deeper into those numbers and into the study itself. I don't think a large public meeting it works well. On the snow removal, DCR has been doing snow removal on a number of its facilities. This is one that we don't know till we're building it if it's going to be added for snow removal. I assume it would be, and the answer is yes. We do have the equipment. We do have the staff, although we are stretched thin on a lot of occasions. Generally, when we clear a corridor like this, we don't clear the entire path. What we do is we clear 6 feet down the middle of it so that we make sure we don't damage adjacent landscape and park amenities. So even on the Charles River Basin, they use a bombardier or a brush roller, and they clear a 6-foot corridor down the path, which makes it safe for pedestrians. And if you have the right gear as a cyclist and you want to use it, you can. We don't necessarily encourage that because we often can't get down to pavement. But and we would attempt not to use sand and salt because it is adjacent to open space and sensitive resources.
Okay, I apologize. I finally have Counselor Baker. If you'd like to speak, I thank you for hanging with me because that took me a while.
It's a magic. I don't know. Can I be heard? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yay. All right. Yay team. Thank you so much. Well, Dan, I think I've seen you for a number of years. For folks who are on this call, I've been the city councilor for this area on and off since 1980. So, but I have to say I'm a little concerned because this is the first presentation I've had about the plan. And I would have offered some comments earlier. The city obviously met with you, but not including the councilors. So we heard about it first time on Wednesday. Let me just run through a couple of things that I think are important to sort out. The intersection at the north end, I think, is really important because clearing the stack ups there, if we have the BC use of the facility, we have the towers at Chestnut Hill, we have the Hammond, both shopping centers, and they're all coming together at that point. And I think that it makes sense before you make a final decision to go to a single lane turn, even though I understand the side swiping, I think there are issues that need to be thought through, is to try some temporary turning, with sandbags and other things to see what configurations work. You don't want to go through all the process of designing this and find out what you've done is create a problem that you don't want to have at the top end. There's also the question of BC's using their facility for heavy equipment, and the DCR has given a very unusual permission, as I understand it, to the college to put their heavy equipment on the Parkway, which is not the convention. But again, how that's going to work with single lane and how it's going to work in that site, I'm not clear. The access to the road from BC's site, it looks like because of the way the pedestrian path is configured and of course the protective barrier, there may be some sideline difficulty. I think it's really important to try and do some on the ground observation to see that the cars can get in and out of the BC area, not just the signalized intersection, but the other one. As far as the Deer Park, the park is currently enclosed with a fence, so the only way to get down to what will be an entrance is to go down next to the T-tracks, next to the fence, and it's a very narrow defile, so I'd be very cautious about setting that up as a trail head because it hasn't been cleared out and it's not yet ready, I think, to be used. I think you can get at it in other ways through the regular trail set and then come across the Lowell Lane crossing, which is, as I understand it, the only grade level crossing in the T system that isn't at a station. But if people then can come back down and access the Houghton Garden and ultimately the Deer Park when it's completed and open, because the Conservation Commission is doing a lot of work there. One other question I have just is the way you're thinking about the design. I think the Nonanum Road example is an interesting one, but I just want to point out one place where there was an attempt to narrow a wider road to a single lane and it didn't work, which was Storrow Drive going westbound towards Kenmore Square. You all remember that several years ago. I think they tried that out and it turned out not to work well because there really wasn't enough room to maneuver and to get people in and out of that configuration. So I think it's really worth thinking very carefully about how this traffic actually works through this particular section, because as opposed to some of the parkways, which are very much just parkways in wooded areas completely, this one services as a very important link to the shopping center and the college and its facilities, as well as access to Beacon Street. So I think it would be really important to sort of have more conversations with people in the area, in addition to the city traffic team, because I have very high regard for them, about their experience, because I think there can be things that can be done here in a positive way. And I really do applaud the DCR for trying to take this initiative, because I think it's going to enhance the quality of the whole experience for everybody, but you want it to work. And that's part of why I think it's important to think through and try out some things before you actually invest a huge amount of money and build something and then find you've got a problem on your hands. And that includes the possibility of diversion to Hammond Street and Langley Road, because people get frustrated and then try and find an alternate way north. So that's just wanted to give you some things to think about, and I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. And thank you for being so patient so that I could.
Thank you for being so patient.
I mean,
That was harder than it needed to
impersonating
be.
Jim McGonigal, I'm honored by that opportunity. And I hope he is not dismayed by the fact that I'm playing under his banner. So thank you.
Okay. We have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to try and power through as many questions as I can. If your question is not answered, please, you will get a notice. All registrants to this meeting will get a notice when the presentation and the recording of the presentation are posted. Please submit your questions or your comments through the public comment tool so that we can gather everything. So the next question. To what extent, I think you've already answered this, I apologize. To what extent have you measured the impact of the narrowing of the Parkway to 2 lanes on the traffic flow on Hammond Street between Beacon and Route 9, which is already a 2-lane road that is heavily used?
Peter, you want to take that?
Well, our traffic study used the volumes that we got pre-pandemic, and we applied them to the Parkway only. We did not look at Hammond Street. We looked at all of the intersections. We did a level of service analysis for each intersection. And I believe the only one that has has some reduction in level of service is the Beacon Street intersection. The other intersections will operate at or close to what they are operating at today. There will likely be some redistribution of traffic, but we believe that the lane configuration at Beacon Street is a safer condition, and it accommodates all of the other users such as peds and bikes to a better degree than it does today. And we also eliminate the side swipe condition.
Okay, great. Next, exciting project. Can driveways and intersections be made even safer? For example, tightening turns at the mall driveway, narrowing the BC driveway, less angled right turn legs. Can lighting include pedestrian lighting heads along the path? And can the left-hand bike turn from Beacon to Hammond Pond Parkway include a jug handle. Right now, the turn box blocks the through lane.
There were a lot of things there on that,
Yeah.
on that question. I think one of them was lighting of the path. And I believe that the approach we're taking is we're lighting the parkway, that the trail itself is actually closed from dusk to dawn. Is that correct, Dan?
Well, no, I mean, the DCR parks are closed are dusk to dawn, but our linear corridors, they are open. People moving through, if you're running, walking, or biking, you can be out there at night. Our hope is that the lighting we're putting in for the parkway, that there will be some ambient light on the path. In general, we do not light our paths at night. There will be all new conduit put in for the street light system. And if at some point we wanted to go back and revisit that, there might be an opportunity to do that. But generally, we don't light our paths. We encourage people that are on bikes after dark that they should have their own lighting on their bike, both tail lights and headlights for safety. So that's the position we're in right now on that.
Okay. Oh, so
Okay.
go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that with regard to the bicyclists up on Beacon Street to enter onto the parkway, at this point, we're planning for them to use the crossing that 90 degrees with the pedestrian movement.
Okay, next, please explain the comment about closing trailheads. Will this plan cause existing trails to be closed?
No trails themselves will be closed, but if there's an opening out to the parkway that we don't think is providing a safe place for people to cross the parkway, and when I say close them, we might just we might plant it there so that it discourages that access. We really can't close it. It's just we're not going to encourage it or invite people. And our hope is that the use of the new 12-foot shared use path with the crossing we're going to put in is going to work really well, and that there won't be as much of a desire line to use those other areas.
Okay, next one. Is it possible to have separate bike and pedestrian lanes? Shared bike and walkways are inherently dangerous.
Say that once more time. I'm sorry.
Is it possible to have separate bike and pedestrian lanes? Shared lanes are inherently dangerous.
The answer is no. We've looked at that at one point, but it really works better as a shared use path. And I understand there's conflict sometimes with users, but our experience is that with proper widths and good markings and a center line, that they're really not inherently dangerous, I guess is what I would say to that.
Okay.
I'll add a more practical part to that, Dan, is that it's almost impossible to keep pedestrians off the bike area and bikes off the pedestrian area. There is a culture in, say, Europe where that's very strictly adhered to. That's the culture. That's not so much the culture here in the United States, and what I found, at least here in the Boston area. There are some places, Dan mentioned a few earlier, where they're marked for pedestrians here, bikes there. And I invite you to try them and see how well that's complied with. And from my experience, it's not so much. So I understand the comment and the feeling, but it's not enforceable, and it's generally not something we can achieve.
Okay, I'm going to move back to hands raised. I've got Nicole Friedman. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, this is Nicole Friedman. I'm Director of Transportation Planning for the City of Newton. And I just wanted to speak for a minute on behalf of the city. The mayor and city staff, including our engineers and our transportation staff, have met multiple times, as you said, to review this project with you. And we're very supportive and we're very excited to see this project go through. we believe that the narrowing, the road diet will succeed, and we will be able to have enough vehicle throughput based on the traffic data that you have shared. But more importantly, we see that this project is really consistent with our vision for great multimodal transportation for all users, bicyclists, pedestrians, and drivers. You're taking a road that is overbuilt, not particularly safe, and turning it into something that will be a real gem for the city. And the way you've described your vision for this connecting, all the way into Boston and multiple parklands, I think we're really proud to be able to do our part and have this section installed. So thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you continually throughout this process.
Thank you, Nicole. Next hand raised, we've got Nathan Aronow. Go ahead, Nathan. Nathan, you there? Okay, I'm not getting Nathan. Jason Glasgow.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Trouble with the.
So Jason, hold off.
Work actively with Bike Newton and do a lot of volunteer work with them. And we have over 1,700 members, and I think I'm sure all of them would approve 100% of this project. It's something that many of us have been hoping would happen for years now. And so we're definitely 100% behind it. And I look forward to phase 2 as well. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Nathan. Jason? Are you there, Jason?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Jason Glasgow. I also work with Bike Newton and a regular commuter. I'm very excited about this plan. I just wanted to comment about the separation of bike lanes and pedestrian passageways or sidewalks. I commute all the time on Vassar Street in Cambridge and Beacon Street through Somerville, where they have bicycle tracks and also a sidewalk next to it. And I have to say that the pedestrians respect the bike lane and the cyclists respect the pedestrian pathway, that it works really well.
Okay.
Can I respond to that, Jenny?
Absolutely.
The difference in those applications, and I'm very familiar with Vassar Street, it was one of the first cycle tracks, actually it was the first cycle track that the city built. It's very old as far as bike facilities go. The difference is that those are one-way facilities. We're building a two-way facility on one side of the street. So I think that the layout is going to be different and the behavior is going to be different than Vassar. And so we have to understand the way people will use the facility, and we have to design appropriately for the behavior that we expect on the facility. We would love it if all the uses, the vehicles, the pedestrians and the bicycles each kept to their separate space and they'd stay away from each other. But I don't think that's achievable in this application.
Okay, next question. The only residential site on the section of Hammond Pond Parkway from Beacon Street and Route 9 is the Towers. It would be good to consider doing a community meeting with Towers residents. There are 600 people who live in the building. Thank you, that's a great suggestion. Next, so will there be only one pedestrian crossing in that 1 mile stretch between Route 9 and Beacon Street, or will there be controlled crossings where the shop's driveway enters as well?
Just the one.
Just the one? Okay.
As far as crossing the actual parkway, yes,
Okay.
just that one.
How will this amazing new bike and recreation trail be connected with the decent bike path to Newton Center along Beacon Street?
What we've you might want to comment on that, Peter, but we've certainly talked with the city and Nicole about that and making sure that our transition into the Newton facility on Beacon Street is properly designed. Mayor Fuller in our last meeting indicated a desire to try to advance some sidewalk improvements on Beacon Street to help people get to this facility better as well, maybe in a timeline that could line up well with our timeline. So to get some sidewalk improvements and some better ADA compliance for all of it. So I think the city is really looking closely at that. We're certainly linked with them and as a partner, and we will make sure that it all transitions as safely as possible.
Okay, we're at 8:30. Do you want to get through maybe another 5-10 minutes and then wrap it up?
Sure.
Okay. We still have a lot. We still have 58 open questions, so I don't think we're ever going to get to those in a timely fashion. So I'm going to go as fast as I can. I don't think the crossing at the middle spot near the parking area was presented fully. Is it a stoplight controlled by pedestrians?
No. It's a crosswalk with proper signage, advanced warning signage for motorists. And it would be just a typical, yield to pedestrians when they're in the crosswalk situation. We have mentioned we are considering whether we would have any kind of lighting. There's some new signs you see where the actual pedestrian warning sign is surrounded by some yellow flashing lights. So there's some alternatives there that don't have to be a full hawk signal that Jeff and I will discuss with the team later and get back to the city on that.
Okay, thanks. Is this wonderful project already funded, and what is the cost? And does the project need to be added to the tip?
It does not need to be added to the tip. We do have it funded in our 5-year capital plan, and the current cost estimate is $6.5 million.
Okay, next one. When completed, what will happen to attendees of BC football games? Oh, we've already discussed that, the parking plan there. Are the minutes of DCR's meeting with the city of Newton available?
We could talk about that with the city, Jen.
Right.
We do have minutes from all those meetings, and I could talk about that with you later in the city, and if everyone's comfortable, I certainly don't have a problem sharing them, but it's something we'd have to talk about with the city.
Okay. How do the trails through the conservation area connect to the shared path?
Well, on the west side, all of the trails will connect directly to the shared use path. On the east side, we do have the one crossing, and I think there are a few trails that will connect to get to that crossing, but there will be some trailheads that if they come out at an unsafe location, we will discourage access onto the parkway at that spot.
Okay, let me, has the DCR prepared an alternative analysis considering the construction of a bike pedestrian lane, but keeping 4 lanes?
The short answer is yes, it is not feasible to do that.
Okay, please review the left-hand turn into the mall from the South Hammond Pond Parkway. Will there be improvements? It feels dangerous to sit there waiting for the left-hand light.
Peter, you want that one?
Yeah, can you read that again, Jenny? That was at the shops driveway?
Yeah, the left into the shops driveway.
Well, we are going to be providing a separate signal phase, the left turn arrow to get in there during the sequencing of the traffic. So at that point, that'll be the safe crossing and the left turn into that driveway. Otherwise, you'll be in a stop condition.
Right. Okay. What degree of reconstruction will occur through the length of the road?
It will be full depth reconstruction.
Yeah, all, down to the shops driveway, and then south of that, we're planning mill and overlay.
Yeah.
With a little bit of what we call box widening, where we have to move a curb over 3 or 4 feet. So in that area, there would be more than a mill and overlay, but that's generally the way we do it.
Okay, I'm gonna see if, I think just scanning through quickly. To see if anything jumps out that we haven't touched on already, and I'm not seeing anything. Again, we're gonna wrap up now. Thank you. If we really encourage you, because there have been so many good questions tonight, and it is early in the design process, we really encourage everybody to, when you get an email that the presentation and the recording have been posted to the website, please visit and submit comments on the public comment website. That's the public record. And all those comments will be posted for review. So again, up on the screen right now, you'll see the URL, mass.gov, DCR/public comment. The follow-up email will have a hyperlink, and we're looking for all comments to be in by Thursday, February 4th. If you have any questions, feel free to email mass.parks@mass.gov. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight and hanging with us. And we look forward to getting your comments and being back again soon. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good.
And
thanks, Jen.
okay.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, guys.
Great job.